did the most responsible thing ever. And I stayed home. I felt like I had gone through, I went through a rebirth. Drugs doesn't deal with the root of the problem. Because again, nothing external is going to make you feel happy inside.
Right.
That happiness comes from giving. You end up going, I don't need that drink. I don't need that drug. I don't need that stuff. 2 minutes before we roll, they change all the dialogues. And it was so much stress. And like I was literally dying from the stress.
They say smile can be deceptive. And here we have Lauren, who has recently opened up about something very serious. It's depression and it's anxiety, which she had been facing for the longest time. We know it's not easy. And here she is sharing her story, her struggles, her journey with us on Pink Villa. Welcome to Pink Villa, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You know, I read somewhere that you mentioned that, of course, you are one of the biggest dancers we have in India. But that tag somewhere makes you feel like you cannot fail.
You said like along the way, that tag of like, Lauren, you're India's best dancer. It got to the point where when jobs were offered to me, I would say, no, I can't take this. I'd be like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that because it's not going to be better than what I did last.
Right.
And I think in society and a lot in this industry, it's like you got to always top yourself and you're going like this until like you're going to explode one day. And so I really, really needed to take a step back and get back to the point of being okay with failure again. And I started doing a lot of things that I was scared of, doing things that I wasn't naturally good at. So I fell on my face. So I went through that moment of like, I'm not good and I need to get better and better at that instead of sitting here being like, well, I've got this title, I've got this fame, I've got a whole country of a billion people, beautiful people that love me. I'm just gonna sit here, even though I'm incredibly unhappy and inside like was, you know, mentally like kind of spinning out of control. I was like,
But how did you manage to smile through everything? Because like you already before we started, actually, you mentioned that you had been facing this anxiety issues since you were 15.
Yeah.
So how did you smile through it? Because, you know, we all have been in that position at some level in our lives, but it is a very, very difficult space, right?
We've all been in that. Like, this isn't anything that is just me. Like, how many times have you not felt good, but you go to that family gathering or you go outside or, you know, just think of all the people that are in the limelight, whether it's sports or news anchors or actors, whatever it is, that feel something, but then you go in front of the camera and you have a job to do. And so you turn it on. And it was actually right when I moved back to the US a couple years ago, my best friend told me I had to go to this like 3-day life coach seminar. And I got up to speak in front of everyone and I like snapped into that, almost like that mask that we wear when everything's not okay, but we're gonna put on this mask that, this front that I'm great, I'm good. And I was walking in front of everyone and I was doing this thing and he turned around and like in front of a room of like 300-400 people was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you up here acting like everything's okay? And all of a sudden I broke into tears and that mask I felt just came like dripping down, and then so did the mascara on my face. And I stood up in front of 300-400 people and I felt like more me than I had ever been. And it felt ugly and it felt terrifying. And I was like, no one in here is going to talk to me after this because they're really seeing me. And it was the complete opposite. Everybody came up to me afterwards and they were like, that was incredible.
Can we say that you're in a better space now comparatively from what you were?
Yeah, and I didn't talk about it. Like you said in the beginning, it was so brave that like I've come forward and I'm talking about it. I can do that now because I've gotten to the other side of the real hurt. And what it was is letting go of years and years of trauma. And this is something that we all face. I think we are born free, completely free, and then life conditions us, and it's completely unfair, and we don't see it happening, but our parents have their ideas and our grandparents have their ideas of how the world is, and that seeps into us. And all of a sudden that, like when you're dancing and you're playing, you know, walking down the street and your mom goes, stop it, because your mom's afraid that people around are going to judge. So then you tighten up and they've just stolen your joy. And I think that just keeps happening and we condition ourselves and stuff. So,
but when you shared this news with your family and your close ones? How did they react when they got to know that you have been facing this for so long and this is now when you are actually letting it go?
It wasn't anything that was a shock to my friends and family. They'd seen the darkness from me. And that's what I felt like for a long time, that I had a lot of dark inside that needed to come out. And it came out through meditation and it came out through therapy. And thank God I actually, when I left India a couple years ago, I was like, I need acting school, which again connected me to real life emotions. That's what actors do. You play real life people. And so I got to learn who I was and learn that I was stuck in survival mode my entire life, and get to know these little things about me. And then the therapist helped me go back through the trauma. And we all have trauma. We all have that thing in those stories that we think we are who we are right now because of all those things that happened in the past. And this was the hugest epiphany. And this is what I would love the most to tell people, is that when I found gratitude, it brought me to the present. It brought me to the now. And this moment that we're sharing right now is perfect.
You know, when you made the shift from US to India, and you mentioned in the interviews as well that you went to an empty home and that really affected you a lot. Do you think as an outsider here, you couldn't find the right connects?
I had a lot of friends. I dated people. I had the people I dated, their families were really accepting of me. I had great working relationships. But there was also like, you know, our little sayings that we do back home, or my jokes, my sarcasm, people don't get here. You know, there's just certain things.
The cultural difference and the shock.
Yeah, basically. You know, when you go abroad and you're like, we didn't grow up the same. But it's also, you know, there's a lot of poverty around. There's a lot that you are seeing and hearing and taking in, where when I go home, where I live right now is in the mountains, where you can't hear anything. You hear like maybe one bird. But here the noise is just like which is also something that you end up loving, but it's so much to your senses. So I needed to go back, and I needed to like really
collect
find
yourself,
meditation.
But you also mentioned that, you know, that was, you were away, you were absent from movies while you were doing therapy, of course, but then there was a brief period in your life when you actually succumbed to prescribed drugs and then alcoholism. How did you manage to get yourself out of it eventually?
It's difficult. It's a really good question. It's still something like, you know, I struggle with, not so much anymore, but it's kind of the idea that something outside is going to help you feel good inside. And it was just the constant reminder of that. And that's, again, why I took myself off social media for 8 months. I did the most responsible thing ever. And I stayed home. I felt like I had gone through, I went through a rebirth. Nothing external is going to make you feel good inside. That happiness comes from giving. You end up going, I don't need that drink. I don't need that drug. I don't need that stuff.
But initial period must have been a little difficult for you.
Tough. It's something I worked on for years, where I like say I'm not gonna drink and stuff, and then the more I say I'm not gonna do it, I would grab it and stuff. But it was just stuffing it down. It wasn't really dealing with the problem, and that's what prescription drugs does. It doesn't deal with the root of the problem. Because again, nothing external is going to make you feel happy inside. So you need all the right tools. I got to a point a couple months ago, I'm like, why am I 31 years old and I'm just learning these tools? And that gave me all of the inspiration to go, okay, I always knew at 10 years old, I knew I needed to be an inspiration for the world. I needed to train and study and be the best dancer and the best human I could be, because one day I was going to be on the world stage. And I needed to be a good role model for people. So I went through a really dark patch of 10 years or so. And now I've gotten to this point where I'm like, now that I know so much and I've taken the time to learn all these tools, now it's like my duty to share and to be somebody that's going to help in society.
We also hear that you were offered ABCD2 and to be the leading lady opposite Varun Dhawan, but you obviously, due to your own valid reasons, of course, you did not take it up. In retrospect, do you think that it was an offer which you could have taken?
It's either going to be the best decision of my life, or it's going to ruin everything. And where I was at, I had spent the last 4 years under extreme stress. Hindi is not something that comes easy to me. It's always been something that I've been fighting to understand and to learn and to speak and get over the pressure of being in front of people and them hearing me and laughing at me and stuff. Like, again, that perfectionist. But we all do that. Like, I giggle at things and stuff, but like that perfectionism wouldn't allow me to fail. But then I had gone through, like any song that I do, everyone goes, you're such a good dancer, and the way you lip sync. I have to do so much work to be able to learn those lyrics, or in those movies to learn the dialogues, and then 2 minutes before we roll, they change all the dialogues. And it was so much stress, and like I was literally dying from the stress.
But you did mention that, you know, a couple of your parts were removed eventually. Did it hurt you? Because they were also, it was not a alien team for you. They weren't strangers. You had worked with them previously in ABCD. It's the same team you're working with. So it's like, you know, it's not your enemies or strangers who have done this to you, it's your friend.
Yeah, it was very isolating for a while. And I don't know, like you instantly say it and I go back to that emotion and I go, but you know what, like it doesn't matter so much anymore. So I quickly take myself out of it because I think I would spiral down from holding on to that.
Right.
It was very tough at the time. It was, like you said, these are the people that brought me to India, and I didn't feel like I was always getting told the truth, and that was very hard. I didn't know who to believe and what to trust, and constantly thought I was being lied to. So it mentally drove me.
So thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for like no drama and actually having a real conversation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
If you guys like this video, please like, share, comment, support, and honestly, most of all, share with your friends. We had a real chat right now, and it's about being real and truthful and honest and supporting everyone, all your friends and all your family. And I think we all feel these things. So take care, be the best you can be, and subscribe to Pink Villa.